In the 14 years that I've worked, I have never met a single therapist who has built their entire practice just on word of mouth. I've known people who maybe were 90 to 80% that way, but never just on word of mouth. And what I find complex is, because we have such a personal job where we interact with people intimately, word of mouth is extremely potent. But I think that YouTube videos, I think that social media, Yelp reviews, third-party testimonials have become an extension of 21st century word of mouth.
Totally, totally. Hey, look at your friends lists. You have hundreds of people on your friends lists, and that's word of mouth. I mean, but it's. I totally get what you're saying. I can't.
It's just that word of mouth has become more complex.
Yeah, it's not just ladies at the salon talking about it anymore, or like, oh, you're hurt, come and see my guy. It's people post on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. Oh, I hurt my back. Really? I've got a guide for you. It's amazing. Come and check it out. But oh, I don't know because again, cost. But then go to the YouTube channel. This is what he does.
Yeah. On my Facebook page, on my social media, I'll occasionally have someone who will write, let's say they're a friend or a friend of a friend, however Facebook sorts that stuff, it floats through my feed, and they say, I have back pain between my shoulder blades. I would go in and initiate a conversation, not privately but publicly, and say, hey, you hurt between your shoulder blades, and I would take a picture I could find on Google and say, is it here, and then based on the information they would tell me, I would link a YouTube video where I show people how to use a tennis ball to massage that spot. And what I would say is, listen, you're probably having a problem with your rhomboids. I want you to work on your rhomboids and your paraspinal muscles along your spine using this tennis ball. There's a YouTube video you can watch that I made. So here's what happens. That person automatically trusts me, and they go, man, this guy, he talked to me for free, he helped me for free, he, in a soft tissue sense, diagnosed my issue, if you want to call it a diagnosis. He figured out my issue online. Wow. Their thought is, what can he do in person? And the thing is, it doesn't mean that that person automatically comes and get a session. What it does mean is I've increased personality, I've increased connection. What if she has a mom, an uncle, a family, a friend? Who does she think of?
Reading that
Who does she think me? And that's the thing. That's in 2016. That's how you win. But again, it's one of those things where it's hard to chart what's the ROI of making YouTube videos to show people how to work on themselves. I've talked to students in a school, and they have looked at me and said, listen, if you teach people how to work on themselves, they're not going to come see us.
That makes no sense because, the market is filled with self-massagers, heating pads, self-massage chairs, and yet we're all still here.
Yeah. There's what I tell people is right now there's, an opiate epidemic in the United States. And that opiate epidemic is not just fed by pain. That's a portion of it. What it is fed by is lack of connection. Because I think across the board, if you looked at people who abuse drugs, they are doing things to their own neurochemistry to try to cope, but they're not using things like massage and body work to increase connection. That's the thing where the Thai Massage Jam, Danielle will occasionally come out to the Thai Massage Jam, and then I'm hosting it on Thursdays, and then once a week at Waterstein Conway. What I realized very quickly with the Thai Massage Jam is we weren't really, if you want to call it selling, we weren't selling Thai massage. What we were really selling was a small degree of education, connection, and touch. The main reason people continue to come to Thai Massage Jam is community-based.
That's all. It's built a community.
Yeah, it's about community. Yeah, it's about community. It's not about massage particularly. And I find those things interesting when it comes to there's an opiate epidemic in the country, But I don't see massage therapists talking about the fact that massage helps relieve pain, that it stimulates natural endorphins. You know, there's not as much research going on for manual therapies, in my opinion, as for pharmaceuticals, but it can't be patented. You know, and it's also challenging to study because it's a little more difficult to isolate variables with bodywork than it is with a chemical compound.
There's so much going on with bodywork. I mean, any therapist can tell you that they've had a client that's had some sort of an emotional release when receiving bodywork, and that comes into a lot of times where the client is just so disconnected with their body, whether that's due to pain, due to stress, life, whatever. And we have to facilitate that safe space for them to have that. And, you know, with pain medication, you know, it definitely, like you said, changes the chemistry of what's going on. But we have to just meet them where they're at.
And as somebody who's dealt with chronic pain, it continues to some degree. One of the most amazing things to me was when I went to massage school, I very quickly tuned into the fact that even though I was in chronic pain, my pain was lessened when I worked on other people. And I think the biggest portion of that, I can't chart what goes on with neurochemistry, I think the biggest thing that happened was that I stopped focusing on my pain and I shifted my focus into someone else and what was going on with them. Which just changing your attention, you know, which fortunately my chronic pain wasn't so bad that
you couldn't have
I couldn't do that. But I could shift my focus onto caring for other people. I mean, I think as a community event, Time Massage Jam touches on those areas. And even in our industry in Austin, so far, Time Massage Jam isn't even being extensively promoted by massage therapists because it's confusing. Because it's like, it's not selling massage, where you pay me and I'm the therapist and I work on you and you're the client. And it's not selling education, where you're the therapist and I'm the educator and you pay me for a class.
I think a lot of that, though, is because therapists, it's drilled into therapists about boundaries, about putting everything into a box, which is another reason why Thai massage and reboot in general is difficult, because we're all taught massage is on a table with draping. These are our boxes.
Cultural context.
Exactly, and you know, I'm talking about American massage for the most part. But this is our perception of massage, and and the other thing I've noticed is that the massage community in general is very Darwin. You know, dog eat dog. You know, do this.
It's a business.
It is a business, which I on the one hand totally get and respect, because you know this is our livelihoods. But at the same time, we need to create a community of support for all of us, and a community of touch, and that's where I really like the jams. Because you know, everybody's there to try new stuff, but also to connect. And like you were saying with you know, it's not a paid session, it's not a CE. You know, the boundaries are hard for a lot of therapists, because what's their role? You know, and that's just difficult for them to understand. You know, when this is a community thing, you're learning touch, you're trying new things, you're being worked on, learning about yourself. And then you can take what you've learned from that for a very small investment, and apply that to your clients. Be more receptive to your clients, you know, be more nurturing to your clients when they're having an issue, understanding, listening more with your body when you're working on them.
Well, therapists themselves, I get mixed feedback about the jams over the years, the past 4 years. Sometimes therapists would tell me, you know, I don't want to come in because I worked all day. I don't want to go work on people. And then I would tell them, why don't you come to the jam and then tell people, I work for 6 hours a day. I'm exhausted. You can work on me. And they were always surprised, like, I can do that? And I'm like, this is a jam. This is not these boxes you're used to. Massage therapists would complain, for instance, about trades. So if you and I were going to trade sessions, that means we have to set up a time, we have to set a date, we have to set an appointment. Everything about that, like, internally, it's work.
It's all work.
And the thing is, the jam was interesting because it set up an already established time and place each week where you could come in and you could trade with people, but you could trade in a way that didn't have a set framework.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if it's just 30 minutes and you say, hey, can you work on my upper back and neck?
Mm-hmm.
Then I just work on your upper back and neck, and if I feel like giving you 30 minutes and we're good with that, then it just sort of works
You're tired,
out.
you're done. There's no expectation.
No.
Which it takes a lot of that pressure off because you're not trying to retain the client.
Yeah.
You're not trying to get a good review. You're not trying to get you can go and do stuff.
Yeah.
And I like that, and I feel like a lot of body workers need that in general because
Yeah.
it helps keep that spark of why we got into this alive.
That for me is one of the reasons I kept the jam going. It took a couple of meetings for me to see what was happening. And when I looked at my internal response, like how did it make me feel? I tell people that Thai Massage Jam was like the most fun you had in school.
Yeah.
In massage school.
Yeah, when you're just
that day you had the
discovering.
most fun. And the thing is, working with people, sharing body work in a community setting where you weren't as focused on rules and you weren't focused on fear and contraindications, opened up this space where I could help people have wider parameters for touch, wider parameters for massage and body work. They could receive good body work very inexpensively. Therapists could network and form alliances. It just felt right. That was why I continued to promote the event, even when other people didn't seem to understand, well, what is this?
I see a lot of therapists, 5, 10, 15-year tenure, and they're just so jaded and tired, and they've lost their passion for it, and it's because they don't receive, regular body.
Because they give, they just nurture and give and nurture.
And that's the nature of our jobs, is to give. We're all givers. That's why we're good at what we do. But we have to fill our wells back up, you know, and having that space it's so no pressure. And just kind of fill yourself up and rest. You guys should come to jams.
Thai Massage Jam is coming to a city near you very soon. It's an interesting dynamic. It's something that
it's weird for sure. It's
well,
unusual.
It's different. But
Yeah,
the thing is, to me, it's a little. It's not the same thing, but it's a little bit like the difference between a cab and getting an Uber. The experience is so different than people's cultural context. The first time I used Uber, I downloaded the app to make sure it worked, and then I was at the airport in Dallas, and I pressed it, and it's like, hey, your ride will be here in 5 minutes, and a little map popped up. I was in shock. When the car drove up and it was on my screen, I'm like, I couldn't believe that the technology had shifted so fundamentally to this more personal service where no taxi service had that.
No.
Yeah.
And then you can get feedback right there.
Yeah.
Which feedback is good.
And it's the same thing. The Thai Massage Jam, when we have it in Austin, therapists, in my experience so far, they don't come in. They increasingly do. It's starting to shift, but they weren't coming into the jams realizing they could learn for free. Because they're like, well, no, I have to learn this with
Who's teaching it?
In a $400 class that I complain is expensive, and I'm like, well, why don't you just come to the jam? And they're like, well, you don't really teach at the jams, and it's like, no, you don't ask. If you ask me for information, I just give it to you. I don't know. I just don't interact that way. It doesn't feel heart-centered. It doesn't feel good. There's a whole chain of things where, I charge top dollar for my sessions, I charge top dollar for classes, and then I've got free stuff. I've had therapists talk to me and they say, I keep raising my rates on my sessions, and they keep saying, if you keep raising your rates, people aren't going to be able to afford it. And I'm like, yes, they can. And they're like, well, how? I'm like, Thai Massage Jam is $5. And they're like, oh, but that's not, I'm like, that's not what? It's not the same thing. But the thing is, my manual therapy and working on people, I've only got so many hours in a day. I've not figured out how to work on 3 people at one time. It's not really possible. So the thing is, that's also why I got more into education, because you were trying to select your clients and then still allow the public to receive better body work. there's a complexity there, and all I know that I have done is increased information across social media channels, put out free content, put out paid content, put out more expensive content, put out more expensive services, and I just charge for what I do, and it pays for a video camera, lighting equipment, it pays for the workbooks, videos, DVDs. You know, if the therapist says, hey, your classes are so expensive, I'm like, well, I've got materials. But it's weird because they act like they can't learn it from that. They act like I'm hoarding the secrets and I don't really give them the gemstones that are there. And it's like, no, to a degree I have to walk you along, because if I'm a martial arts instructor and you're a boxer, you've only had familiarity with punching, and now I'm showing you how to kick. There's a different skill set there. And when it comes to how you deal with social media, how you deal with pricing, I just continue to tweak it based on the feedback that I get. And long term, like I tell students, it's like you got to raise your rates. Like you got to make money for the time. And especially when it comes to body work, because it is manual labor, there's only so many hours in a day. Doing Thai Massage Jam allowed me to educate people cheaply. It allowed me to educate the public. It allowed me to build a community event and a following of people who were noisy about Thai massage, so that Thai massage filtered into the larger community. And bodywork was more available, not less, because my rates went up.
And that's part of the thing where, just in general, massage therapists need to be more part of the community. Because it's, if we talk about marketing as far as the jams are concerned, clients will hear about a jam, or they'll hear of somebody who's talked about somebody about the jam, and they can kind of go and see what it is, and then it's just generating talk so that you're more on people's minds, so when something does happen or they want a session, you're right there. And I think a lot of therapists get stuck in where my clients aren't they showing up. It's like, well, who are you? Who are you in the community? Are you a part of it? Be a part of it.
With therapists, do you think more massage therapists are introverts or extroverts?
Oh, total introverts.
Okay, and that's my guess.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
my guess. I know that for customer service, if I deal in retail, not my retail, that's different, but if I was working at a place and I sold their stuff, I frankly half the time just didn't care. I'm not a salesperson that way. It doesn't work really well for me. It doesn't speak to me.
But it's not you. When you're a sole proprietor, you're selling yourself. And they hinge a lot of who they are on what they're selling, and it's scary. And so they just feel like the massage can speak for themselves, which you can be an amazing therapist, but if people don't know you, they won't see you. They don't know you. And that's where, I really feel like there should be more continuing education classes out there about just general marketing, about sales. People don't like sales.
But massage therapists, not all, but massage therapists don't want it.
That makes no sense.
Just at the classes at Large Scene Conway, I've learned that I get depressed after my classes because I'm so focused and I'm so on that I drop after the classes. So I learned not to I learned not to read the reviews or feedback forms for like a week after class, because they can say that every 20 of the feedback forms can say it changed their life and it's the best thing ever, and that one person is going to complain. At Lauderstein, I taught a class. I mistakenly read one review form that day, and the person said they didn't want to learn any marketing. They don't want anything to do with marketing and business. They came to take a Thai massage class. They don't want to know about marketing. Don't do that. And I just slumped internally, because the challenge is that therapist, my guess is, I don't know who it was, my guess is that therapist works for somebody else. They do all of the marketing and advertising for them, so they feel like they don't need it. What they don't understand yet is they're studying a form of bodywork that they're not going to be able to sell, which means I have to cover, at least in some form, the marketing and advertising components. Because if you try to sell what I do like it's a massage, the normal cultural box, you're going to fail.
Yeah, totally. And it makes no sense. I don't understand why, even if you work in a franchise setting, you're still having to sell yourself.
Yeah.
Because when your client comes in, you're having to sell them your confidence, your experience. You're having to buy their trust with yourself to get them to want to come back and to see you. And I see there are some great therapists who can't seem to connect with their clients and make them feel safe, and the clients will go somewhere else. And so it's not just I need, marketing and sales for money. It's a connection thing as well.
I mean, if you're a massage therapist and you work at a large chain spa, let's say Massage Envy, my guess is, I don't know all of Massage Envy's policies, but I can think across the board, if you work for a large chain spa, and let's say you work on the marketing as an individual therapist in their facility so that your rebook rate is consistently double what any other therapist is. If you've worked there for a year and your rebook rate is double, your client base is filling at that facility, it's easier to go in and ask for a raise.
Totally. And it's as it should be, because you're valuable. And that's where a lot of therapists don't feel their worth at a franchise. You were there to make money for yourself, but you're also making money for the spa. And you are valuable. And if you can make those sales, if you can, sell those upgrades or enhancements or upsell your clients to 90 minutes or, whatever, because not only is that beneficial for them, it's beneficial for your sessions, it's beneficial for your books. All of those are skills that you can use there, you can take with you, and it overall helps everybody. I feel like everyone should take a sales class just to know how to, communicate and connect with people.
I'm a big fan of it, but I admit that I spent 10 years in poverty before I got to that point. And it was because I started massage and bodywork really without having much of any business experience at all. It was not something I was interested in.
And most of them aren't, because they have beautiful craft. Like I see so many very, very talented therapists who they don't have that passion or that want or that desire to learn any sort of marketing and sales, which is fine, and that's why franchises are there as an option, because they take care of that for them. But overall, everybody can be so much better with some sort of sales experience or sales mindfulness.
See, and I like that we kind of pulled it full circle from talking about sole proprietorships to working for even a large chain. And how individual marketing choices can make you stand out, make more income, even within that, spa context of a larger chain.
It's franchises have their place. They're not for everyone, and that's fine. They are for some people who like that model, and that's fine too. But even if you're a new therapist and you started a chain, there's a lot that you can learn from that, particularly how to sell yourself. Because you're given these clients. Because those franchises have taken on, doing the marketing. So you're giving these clients, so you're able to try this stuff out, to make those connections, in a 5-minute period, to get those people to buy into you, and then you've learned something. And then when you go to do your own business, or you want to stay at a different, stay at a spa or try something different, you have that experience. Use it.
How to sell yourself. That touches on, I think, one of the core issues is in our industry. Like, for instance, I have retail now, so selling retail has a distinctly different vibe.
Because you're not emotionally connected to it. You're like, you want this, great.
Selling yourself, that's a very murky.
Personal. It's personal.
Yeah, and the thing is, it gets to this point where and I know I felt this previously, not so much anymore, but if people don't purchase my service, I felt rejected. Not my service, I felt rejected.
Yeah. And I think it's also part of the fact that, most therapists are giving in nature.
Yeah.
We give a lot in our sessions, and then to have that rejected it hurts deep down.
Yeah.
But that's where, you need skills to cope with that. You need those sales skills. You need to learn how to overcome objections. You need to overcome your fear of taking money for your service. Because I read so many therapists get awkward when it comes time. Yeah, when it comes to money, like, I'm charging you this much, or the clients want to change the amount after. It's like, don't sell yourself short. You've done your service, and it's great, and this is a part of you. and then move on.
The confidence that comes with that, I often, when I talk to students in class, I compare elements of running a massage business to the dating life.
Mm-hmm.
And the male students in particular always understand this, because as much as gender roles have shifted in the United States in the past 20 or so years, as a male, I'm still expected to do the asking out.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what you learn really quickly as a male in America. If I don't ask out women that I want to go out with, they don't go out with me. So you get over that hurdle really quickly, where you're like, okay, you don't want to date me? I bet your friend will.
Right.
And it's like, you may have to ask 5 people before you actually get a date, but it incentivizes and rewards being proactive and risking rejection.
Yes.
Where you didn't worry about the rejection so much, because actually that was really nice, because if I asked you out and you said no, absolutely not, I went, oh, okay, well that wasn't going to go anywhere anyway, and you could move on. Yeah.
The way I look at it too is, and I look at this with, clients and jobs and any sort of rejection situation is, where is this going to be in my life in 5 years? Is this client that doesn't want my service, am I going to be thinking about them for 5 years? If I'm not, then I'm not worrying about it. Because I'm going to be in hopefully a much, much different place in 5 years than I am right now.
Yep.
So if somebody doesn't want my service, that's fine. I'm not the therapist for them. There are all these other ones out there. That's great. I'm going to find ones that fit with me.
When it comes to therapists who are looking at a sole proprietorship, when they're looking at working just for themselves, I see them trying to market to everybody. One, I think you need to target market your clients. And what I think you need to do is you need to figure out how many regular clients do you need to see once a week, once every 2 weeks. And if you figure out that's 40 every 2 weeks, your goal is to get those 40 clients. And here's what happens. When you get those 40 clients, it doesn't matter about the rest. Because the rest are just stragglers from clients who made noise, who were part of that original 40.
Just looking around,
So it's not as big as therapists really think it is.
But they get overwhelmed and so scared by it because they're putting themselves on the line. They're putting their soul out there, and hopefully nobody rejects it. And the truth is, if you market to everyone, somebody's going to reject you because you're not going to be the therapist for everyone. No one is.
No, it's just morning. I'm tired. It's not as big as the therapists think it is. You don't need 1,000 people. You need 40 really dedicated people.
But I think also too, it's hard for a lot of therapists if they're coming from a franchise or a spa setting, because numbers are pushed so hard there. Meet these certain numbers, meet these certain quotas.
But why are the numbers pushed?
Because they need that large volume to keep that larger establishment running.
Because they have expenditures for the facility, for lighting, electricity, insurance. The thing is, stuff that individuals and sole proprietors don't have.
Exactly, the overhead is much, much lower. And that's where I think just everybody gets so scared. Plus, typically for a lot of people being in a spa or franchise, clients are there, usually for the most part, for a successful place. The clients are there, they don't have to worry about it. But now having to go out and get your own, it's that, hunt, feast, or famine thing. Hunt what you, or kill what you hunt. And that's scary for a lot of people because, for the most part, our society is set up to work in these boxes where, you put in your time and you're given money and then you leave. Whereas with a sole proprietor, you have to invest much, much more than just time. You have to invest passion in yourself.
Well, massage therapists often, what I see is when they work for a large chain, they work and they get paid. Then they don't understand when I talk to them and I say I work 50 to 60 hours a week. They're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I've done that for the last 4 or 5 years. I have to clarify that and say I might only spend 15 to 20 hours a week in session with clients. The rest of it is all promotion, marketing, and they're like,
well, that's soft time.
They immediately are like, no, there's no. And the reason why is because their notion is I work on something, I get paid. When I produce this YouTube video, I'm not making any money from this YouTube video. And that's why they're not making videos. But here's the thing, in the 20 hours that I do see clients, I'm making 3 times as much per hour